Okay, the next item on tonight's agenda is the approval of the minutes for our meeting of July 2nd. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
I didn't see any.
Make motion to approve.
So move.
It's been moved by Mr. Espinosa and seconded by Mr. Talmadge. Please vote. And the minutes are approved 5-0. And then we move on to item number 5 on tonight's agenda, and it's a public comments portion, and it's the time that any member of the public that wants to speak on a non-agenda item, this would be the time to come forward. And seeing nobody come forward, we'll close the public comment and then move right into our item number 6, the CUP 391 Lustra development.
Mr. Chair, before we get going, again with this development, as with the last other one across the street that was reviewed a couple weeks ago, I have a potential conflict of interest with the lead architect on this project. We have a business relationship, not on either of those two applications, but due to that, I'm going to need to recuse myself from this consideration.
Thank you. Okay, then we can move forward. Mr. Torres.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Edsel and members of the Planning Commission. CUP 391 is an application from Lustra Development, LLC for the demolition of an existing 8,333 square foot commercial building and the development of a new 18,352 square foot, 3-story mixed-use building. The project consists of 1,384 square feet of commercial usable space on the ground floor and 12 apartment units on the second and third floors. The applicant is requesting 2 concessions for a reduction in the required rear yard area and an increase to the permissible lot coverage. In exchange, the developer will provide 2 very low-income units within the project. The 0.25-acre project site is located at 75 and 99 South Glen Drive, within the Camarillo Old Town District in the COT zone. The properties are bordered on the south across Chapel Drive by an ambulance use in the single-family residential R1 zone. To the north and west are a retail and medical office buildings in the COT zone. To the east across Glen Drive is a basketball court and a parking lot in the rural exclusive RE zone. The project site is comprised of 2 adjacent parcels that are currently developed with 2 buildings with a total square footage of 8,333 square feet of commercial retail use. The buildings were approved in 1970 and have been used for retail, commercial, and institutional uses. A notice of public hearing has been advertised for tonight's Planning Commission meeting to all property owners within 600-foot radius of the project site at the Camarillo City Hall, on the city's website, and publication in the Camarillo Acorn. On this slide, we can see the existing building. This is facing to the southeast corner of Glen and Chapel Drives. The proposed project consists of 1,384 square foot of usable commercial space and garage parking on the ground floor. The second and third floors of the project will contain 12 apartment units. The site plan shows a 3-story building oriented with the commercial storefronts facing Glen and Chapel. A ground floor parking garage is proposed behind the commercial units that will provide parking to support residential units on the second and third floors. A new 26-foot driveway will be provided to the ground floor parking garage from the Chapel Drive. An existing 15-foot access drive located along the westerly edge of the property will be paved and will be continued to provide access to the properties to the north. The new angle parking spaces will be provided on Chapel Drive for commercial uses. The building will provide a front yard setback of 1 foot 2 inches to the easterly property line along Glen Drive, a side yard setback of 11 feet 11 inches to the southerly property line, a zero lot line to the northerly, and 15-foot rear setback to the westerly property line. The proposed plan as submitted indicates that the building coverage is approximately 72% of the site and 25% of hardscape and 3% of landscaping. The applicant is requesting 2 concessions for the reduction of the required rear yard area and the increase to the permissible lot coverage. In exchange, the developer will provide 2 very low-income units within the project. The 12 apartment units are required to provide 1 enclosed parking space per unit containing 2 or fewer bedrooms. All units will have 2 bedrooms or less, requiring a total of 12 parking spaces. The project will provide a total of 12 parking spaces within the ground floor garage in compliance with the required off-street parking for the apartment use portion of the project. The city's parking ordinance requires the 1,384 square feet commercial space to provide 3 spaces. The project will provide 2 new on-street angle parking spaces along Chapel Drive that will serve the commercial uses. Additionally, there are 6 existing on-street angle parking spaces on Glen that will be served the proposed building and as well to continue to provide on-street parking for Old Town District. Main access to the residential units will be provided from a lobby on the ground floor that connects the parking garage on Glen Drive. Secondary access to the residential units is provided at the rear of the building through a staircase within the parking garage. An elevator will be provided on the first floor lobby to the residential units on the second and third floors. A secure parking garage for the residential units will be provided on the ground floor. The second and third floors of the building comprise of the residential portion of the project. The second floor includes a 1,652 square foot common courtyard area. 4 of the 12 units are 2 stories and have their entrances on the second floor with the bedrooms on the third floor. Additionally, the second floor will have 4 single-story units. The third floor is comprised of 4 single-story apartment units. Each residential unit will provide a private patio area ranging from 54 to 110 square feet. The 12 residential units are proposed to be a combination of studios, 1-bedroom units, 2-bedroom single-story units, and 2-bedroom 2-story units ranging from 661 square feet to 1,288 square feet. The building elevation shows the proposed 3-story building to measure approximately 39 and 6 inches in height. The COT zone limits the height of the building to 2 stories, not to exceed 35 feet. However, a greater building height and the number of stories may be permitted, subject to a conditional use permit. The requested height is compatible with the COT zone, and as other buildings with the similar heights have been constructed in the surrounding area, including the townhomes at the northwest corner of Palm and Chapel Drives. The proposed building complies with the Heritage Zone requirements as the project is designed in a Santa Barbara style of architecture and incorporates architectural elements such as sand stucco finish, clay tile roof, decorative metal rails, decorative cornices, Spanish-style accent tiles, corbels on the projected windows, and stone veneer. The main body of the residential buildings will be white in color with dark brown and black colors as accents on the beams, posts, and metal details. The precast window sills and corners will be a medium light tan color, and a medium dark gray color will be used on the window frames and doors. On this elevation, we can see the proposed east elevation of the building. This is facing on Glen Drive. And as we can see, we can see the use of the stone veneer on the bottom section on the first floor, which is the commercial section of the project. And then we have the metal details that they're using either on their private balconies and as well in some other sections of the building. The main color of the building is going to be a white sand, in the stucco is going to be sand stucco finish. This is the proposed south elevation of the building. This is facing Chapel Drive. You can see the garage entrances here And as well, you can see some of the balconies on the third floor and the clay barrel tile that is being used on the roof. This is the proposed west elevation. This is facing the medical building to the west. And as well, you can see the use of the different architectural elements that I previously listed. This is the proposed north elevation. And on the proposed north elevation, you can see there's an existing building right almost against the proposed three-story mixed-use building. And per building and safety and the fire department code, because this building is on a zero lot line, the projections that you see here, they're windows, but they're false windows. The conditions of approval require for the applicant must enter an affordable housing development agreement for review and approval by the city attorney. The project was reviewed in accordance with CEQA guidelines and was determined to be categorically exempt under Class 32 infill development. In conclusion, staff recommends approval of CUP 391, subject to the attached conditions of approval, and the action of the Planning Commission is final unless an appeal is filed within 10 days of the date of their action. And this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Are there any commissioner questions of staff?
Not at this time yet.
No.
Okay, I had a couple questions. You know, that one side, the north side, you call those false windows. What is that? Is that, I mean, is it actually glass that lets light in, or?
No, it's just the architectural detail, but it's not really accessible or anything like. So you're not going to have any windows that will provide lighting to the rooms.
From that, so
So it's
I don't think I've seen those. Does it look like a window from if you're down looking at the building?
Yes, it's actually just a facade. And the alternative is we didn't want to have a blank wall there, so we try to get creative there to give a more aesthetically pleasing, view as from the street as you look up. When you do look up, it will look like a window just because it's so far away. But it won't be the traditional glass and wood. Yeah.
Is there any other place in town that's been done?
Not that I'm aware of, but we're trying to be more creative in our projects with features like that.
Okay. And then on the alleyway where there's the access to the, does that belong to the lot, or is that an alley easement that's not part of the project property?
the access area behind the building. It does belong to the lot.
It does, okay.
It's just that it's an easement to provide access to the other properties to the north.
And then it looks like the underground parking, it has a roll-up secured parking thing.
It's actually not an underground parking, it's on the first floor.
Okay, but and it has a secured.
It has a secure gate that, for the new residents that they will be able to use. It's mainly for them.
And in my understanding, it's going to be one parking spot per unit, so a total of 12, right?
That is correct. That is according to code.
Okay, I think that's all I have for right now. We're going to open the public testimony in a second, and so anybody that would like to speak on this or any agenda item, just to remind you to pick up a blue card in the back and fill it out. And this is agenda item number 6 that identifies the next one will be number 7. And if you're going to come up and speak and haven't done that now, you can just do it before you leave today. But is there, I guess the applicant is who we want to come up first, and I'll open the public testimony for the applicant to come forward. Oh, and excuse me, other than the applicant, though, when we get the speaker, I just want to remind people tonight, because we have a few here, we want to hear everybody's opinion, so we're going to have the 3-minute timer, and then the applicant's unlimited because he's given a presentation, and then they'll have a chance to come at the end and rebut it. And that way, if we keep it to 3 minutes, everybody will have time to speak. So go ahead, sir.
Sure, Chairman and Commissioners. We worked closely with the staff over the last period of time to get to this architectural style and the use of the actual property. A lot of fine details, a lot of planning, a lot of give and take, as well as multiple iterations to get to where we are. I give the staff, Carlos Torres and Jackie, a lot of credit because it wasn't easy to come up with solutions for that big blank wall. You start to put little tile pieces, you do other things, but it just looks big and blank. So what they helped us come up with is what looks like architectural windows and gables, and it looks nice, but it's a little tricky to do. I've done them in the past. You have tinted windows, you have other options. You don't usually want to use glass because it's temperamental, it could break. But for the most part, it looks very real from the street. You'd have to go up and poke around and, to realize it wasn't going anywhere. But kudos to the staff for that. And just want to say thank you for hearing about our plan, and we would appreciate your support moving forward.
Okay, and then I forgot to just have you give your name for the record. Yeah.
Sure. It's Rick Town.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions of the applicant?
I do have a couple. The patio walls for the smaller units that are inside, how tall are those walls that are next to the opening? And can they see over, will they be able to see like if the top of the tree, if it grows taller, or any space there, or are they totally like walled in?
Commissioner, are you speaking about the two interior patio areas?
Yes, so the wall that's next to the open area.
Yeah, that's an atrium, so it's meant to look over. So I would assume they're about 4 to 5 feet tall.
Okay, so it's not a full-height wall blocking that. Another question I had was, didn't see any place like in the parking garage labeled like maybe for bike racks. I don't know if there's room to put those in front of where the electrical boxes are, or if the tenants had bikes, would they have to take them upstairs through the elevator to their separate units?
That's a great question. I know bikes, racks have to be out front, but internal to the actual tenants is a great question.
Yeah, because I would think maybe some of the tenants at least would have bicycles.
Sure.
And it looked like, if I measured correctly, the interior of the elevator was somewhere between around 6 by a little over 7 feet with a diagonal of 9. So they might be able to get 1 or 2 bicycles, 2 people in there with them.
Sure.
Possibly. But I was just concerned that, that there would be some accommodation for bicycles.
Great question.
And let me see here. We kind of talked a little bit about overflow street parking. The only time I think that might be a problem would be maybe evenings and weekends. Well, maybe more so daytime and weekends. If you get enough public parking for the commercial spaces on the side, if anybody's home in the daytime. But it's nice to know that there's at least 8 extra parking spaces out there that are allotted to this building. And
May I respond to that?
yes,
We go into the office on the corner quite a bit. We don't go there full time, but we use it once in a while. And really, those parking spaces, other than a few people working at the medical building to the west, those spaces aren't used until around 9 o'clock. So my prediction is that there are over 40-something, including our new 12 and the other 2, there's over 40 parking spaces, 45 parking spaces right there. And I think that it will have a natural flow for people leaving as
Hopefully.
residents, before 9, and people coming to the commercial buildings
yeah.
after 9.
There were, last evening, I was around 7 o'clock when I drove by, but there's one little shop still open in your building. And so there were cars parked there last night. And then I've been there on a weekend when they're, of course, parking out there.
I think a lot of it is there's a gym there, and if you go there on Saturdays and certain times of the day, there are quite a few people that are, parking
Using
up
the
and down
gym.
the street.
Okay. Thank you for those answers. And I think everything else I had questions has been answered.
You, Mr.?
Yeah, can you go back to the slide that had the floor plan layout that with the third story? Yeah, so the single, on the north side, the single-story units, on, yeah, you have on efficiency units, you call them? Okay, and is that where the facade on that north side, that's where the facade is, right? So there aren't essentially any openings within the interior, inside those bedrooms, other than the opposite side where the entrance doors are. Is that correct?
Patio door.
So was there, as far as having two ways out of an upper floor story where you might be trapped if something is going on outside your entrance door, if there's no exiting from the main entrance, what options do they have?
Well, the ingress egress requires them to have one point of entry and one point of exit. So they do have the front door, and they also have the large slider that's there on the patio. Other than that, there are no options to get out. Thankfully, that's an atrium there, so highly unlikely that if there were a fire that it would be, it's not as if they're squeezed in by another unit in front of them. They have open space. But those are the only ingress and egress is right there.
And I assume that the solid wall is because of the zero lot line fire resistant requirements, although you're actually cutting off a second means of egress from a window
Sure.
by doing so.
It's solid concrete.
Yeah.
Just one thing I'd add, though, what you shared about the two upper units and the efficiency units with the solar tubes, so they will get some light, additional light, right?
Yes.
From the up?
Those are two one-bedroom units, and
Right.
because they're on the third story, they have the roof above, so we're able to put a skylight or a sonotube
Yeah.
to light up the main body, the little family room there, and then the ingress egress is mandatory for the bedrooms.
Yeah. So they will have some additional light for the upstairs units. And I take it that the zero lot line on the north wall allowed you to have more space on the south wall for walking around and for the cars to be able to go into the parking area?
You know, we actually moved the southern wall in, so we moved it towards the north
Right.
to allow for the angled parking, which was something that the staff wanted, and there are a few reasons I don't remember, but
Right.
yeah, so we actually, where the building sits now, it'll actually be further away from
Right.
where it's at.
But to me, that is what kind of created the need for the zero lot line on the north wall.
The need for the zero lot line? Perhaps. I think it was mandatory for that zero lot, on the zero lot line, if you go up to it, which is normal.
Okay.
They require an actual separation between buildings that is a true firewall. I think it has to be,
Okay.
it's not
Right.
just a, sorry?
That's fine. Thank you.
How about you, Mr. Talmadge?
One quick question. I think I know the answer, but I just want to make sure. These are proposed as rental units only, right? They're not for sale?
They're not for sale, no.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any members of the public that would wish to speak on this agenda item? If so, you could come forward. Seeing none, I guess we close the public testimony. And then we have the Architectural Review Committee. Mr. Talmadge?
The committee met prior to this meeting and discussed the proposal, and the committee was a unanimous decision, all two of us, that we approve of the architecture. We think it's very sensitive to the neighborhood, that the use of colors, the materials really reflect, I think, a good indication for the building, and we compliment not only the developer but staff for working closely with the developer in providing a project that is a good-looking project.
Great, thank you very much.
I'd like to add to that, that on the color schemes with the stucco and the tile and the roofs, it's very similar, if not the same, as the ones that were approved kitty corner from that. So they'll be coordinated.
Okay, so I guess we move right into commission discussion and recommendation. Do you have any other comments about the project in general? Maybe start down at this end. If you do, Mr. Talmadge.
I have the same questions that I raised 2 weeks ago about a lot of the conditions that don't seem to apply in the project, and I won't go through them again because that was a matter of discussion 2 weeks ago. But I still reiterate that I think there's too much in the conditions that don't really apply to the project. I like many of the conditions that are there, but some of them just don't seem to be applicable. So I would encourage staff to take a look at that. That's really all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Espinosa?
Well, I've had some, concerns that I've expressed regarding mainly the, I think the concept of high-density housing as a project and what it presents seems to be well done. But in terms of the footprint and what they have to work with there and what that creates in terms of access, it seems to provide certain kinds of complications, limitations. You do have, obviously, good access on Chapel and Glen Drive, but you've got two sides of the building that are going to be, limited and compromised. And I think, while I understand the trade-off of providing, for, a couple of very low affordable housing units, which is, something that is needed. The exchange, in doing so, it creates, additional concerns with regard to public safety or access, Those are mainly the misgivings that I've had about this project.
Okay. How about any comments from you, Ms. Vandermolen?
I don't have any further comments, but on that, at least we have the two stairways on each side, one down to Glen and one into the easement area to the west. So I think they have a fair amount of room to get around and at least get downstairs or something if they really need to get there and if the elevator's not, can't get them all down fast enough. But I do understand that, we have that one solid wall with no windows.
Yeah, my comments is I think I'm a little surprised that we didn't have anybody from the public show up on this tonight. And my little things, and maybe I need some convincing, but the three-story, I think looks great along Ventura Boulevard where it's a sloped-down lot, so it's not massing to the residential behind. This one I was a little concerned was, too massive for the site that it's on, and it's, we have to have a finding that it gives above the, through the conditional use permit to make it higher than normal. And, and I was concerned at the residential on the third story because we have single family on, what is that, the south side. If any neighbors were concerned, it seems like it'd be looking down in the yards. And then and I know with the state mandating with the concessions, but, normally the 65% lot coverage and it's going to be 72%. And then the setback that would have normally been 25 feet on the back side of the property, the east it's only going to be a 10-foot setback. And I guess maybe interested to hear from staff or the developer why those, were those taken a good look at, and that's not a concern for egress and safety and too massive for that lot. I think that the park across the street, so the height facing that way I think is not an issue, but I was just looking at some of the findings that we have to find, and it says that For instance, we have a finding that the proposed mixed-use project provides adequate building setbacks and safe vehicle access to the site from Chapel Drive. And I just wondered if did staff take a look at that? And that's, I'm not an expert in that area, but that kind of concerned me if we could make that finding. And then it's in harmony with various elements of the general plan, not detrimental to the existing uses. But, apparently no neighbors are concerned about it. I thought the height would be an issue tonight that I was concerned about. So I'm just kind of raising those issues. And so the two concessions I think we're making to get the very low income units, which helps us meet our housing goals and everything, is the 10-foot setback instead of the 25-foot, and then the 72% of entire lot coverage versus 65, which would be standard. And I just wondered if staff can kind of help convince me a little bit on those items that I just am a little bit concerned about.
Sure. So I'll kind of take them in order here. So to address Commissioner, on the density, well, it's actually the density bonus, which also allows for an increased density and concessions in our ordinance. And actually that comes down from the state. So, and how that's applied isn't really fair to the cities, and we acknowledge that and we're aware of it. But the selection of the concessions are solely up to the developer, unless we can make a finding that it would severely threaten health and safety, which I'm told is extremely difficult. So with the setbacks in the rear yard, they chose to have that as a concession, so we really can't address that. The setbacks on the front and the side we think are appropriate because there isn't any setback requirement for those. So we're trying to encourage the buildings to be up to the front of the front property line, and have that presence on the street. So we do support that. The looking down into the height, I guess, would be the question. Looking down to the neighbors. Could you put the aerial on, please? So you can kind of see the only single-family house, I guess, that's actually used as a residence is in the southwest of the project, and
That's got a whole street in front
and
of
there's
it
a street,
too. Yeah.
So there's adequate separation there for that, we feel, and then the height, I guess. This kind of came up in the architectural design committee also. This is actually one of the projects that we want to encourage in our Old Town area. We want to increase the density. We want to increase height. We want to bring more people downtown to support our existing businesses there.
Do you see that being kind of the trend all the way down to Ventura Boulevard on that line? So that one's not just sticking up by itself?
I do. I see, especially like maybe if you show the elevation. So right here, you can kind of see off to the right, you see the one-story commercial use. I can see that property in the future doing the same thing and having that continue all the way down Ventura Boulevard. So this is kind of what we envisioned for the area. And, we have the Cedar Oak project, which is a few blocks down, same density, exact same density. 3 stories, that is, like you mentioned, on Ventura Boulevard, so it's a downslope a little bit, so it only looks like probably a 2-story, but it is a 3-story building.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as massive, I think, because of that
Right.
slope, but.
Right. So, but these are the type of projects that we want to encourage in the area, and we want to guide the investment there, because we want, to continue this movement. We also have the Dr. Ling project, that's in nearby. We have the condos, which is, 2 blocks to the west. And then we also have the 2088 building. That was like a mixed-use style. So we're starting to see it the trend start. And recently they've been going from like the 2-story to the 3-story now. So see that continuing, and we want to keep on encouraging that.
Is that the one lot directly behind it, is that's commercial right now? Is that the one you said was the doctor's office?
The one to the west?
Yes, behind the
Yeah,
little
is that-
alley?
yeah.
The one to the west is a doctor's office, and the one to the north is a thrift store.
So that'll probably never be residential over there, not necessarily at least on the ground
It could
floor,
be.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, yeah, I mean, the residential would be above.
It is on the same zone as
Yeah.
well.
And in that 15-foot, is that kind of the normal size of an alley area? Is that, would you consider that an alley?
It's not an alley, it's actually an access to the thrift store.
Does it go clear down?
I think it stops, right? Do you want to show I think it stops at the thrift store.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's,
we go- yeah, it's kind of hard,
okay.
kind of hard to
So
see.
it's clearly that private driveway,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, okay. Okay.
I've driven in there for drop-offs.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Tillman?
A similar question came up in the architectural review, and perhaps a very glib answer was, when you're the first one, you stick out. It looks, that's unusual, but you come back in a period of time later, after other development has occurred, and you go, oh, yeah, that fits.
Yeah, that,
And
yeah.
the example I would cite is if, as you leave Adolfo Road going up Flynn, you're headed generally north. When the first apartments on the left-hand side were being built, the first units that were built, you went, where did that come from? What is that? And then as more and more were built, you say, okay, yeah, it does kind of fit together. So I think that here we have a situation where it seems big right now, but if in fact other infill comes in, I think it'll look better in the context. That's just,
And actually, I think the location of the park across the street that's nice to have that there rather than a residential area there.
That's true.
Too, and if it continues
That's
down, that could end up being very nice, yeah.
so again, I wasn't trying to be glib about it. I just wanted to point out that there's a context that we look
Yeah.
at as well.
No, I think that's why these public hearings are good, because, no matter how much you prepare in the packet, you still learn a few things the night of the meeting that clarify a few things, so. All right, that's great. So what's the commissioner's pleasure? Call for resolution, or?
It's okay.
Call for resolution, yeah.
Resolution number PC 2019-09, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo approving a request from Lustra Development, Inc. for the demolition of an existing 8,333 square foot commercial building with the development of a newly 18,352 square foot, three-story mixed-use building consisting of 12 apartments above 1,384 square feet of usable ground floor commercial space on a quarter-acre site located at 75 and 99 Glen Drive in the city's Camarillo Old Town Zone, further described as CUP-391.
I would move we waive further reading of the resolution.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Talmadge
I'll second.
and seconded by Ms. Van Mullen.
Clarify, that was motion to move for the reading of resolution and adopt the resolution as proposed?
Yes.
I will amend my, my comment to waive further reading of the resolution and move that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution as stated.
Okay, it's been moved and then seconded
Second.
by Ms. Van der Molen. Please vote. That passes 3-1. Okay, so we move on to the next item, number 7, the CUP 396 for Beach Dog Fun Doggy Daycare and Boutique.
Chair Edsel, I think Mr. Secretary is
Oh.
reminding us that we may want to
Okay,
get
yeah.
Commissioner Murphy.
Got to bring back Mr. Murphy. Is he coming? Oh. Maybe he can bring us the Dodger score, huh? Did they win? Okay, so item number 7.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. The applicant is seeking approval of a conditional use permit to authorize the use of an existing industrial space for a dog kennel named Beach Dog Fun. No exterior modifications are being proposed as a part of this application. The facility will provide daycare and overnight care of the dogs, including feedings, training and obedience, play and socialization, bathing and nail trimming, and transportation to and from the client's homes. The hours of operation would be Monday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. From 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. On average, there would be 4 employees on site, with up to 6 employees during peak times. An average of 40 dogs per day, with up to 65 during holiday season, would be accommodated at the facility. Approximately half of those would utilize overnight boarding. The proposed location for the dog kennel is within the end units K and L of the existing multi-tenant building, which is right there. The building is located at 4035 Adolfo Road between Lewis and Flynn Roads on an industrial 4.32 acre site. The dog kennel would share a common wall with Goodwill Donation Express, and other uses in the existing multi-tenant building are automotive uses and Blimpies. Surrounded uses include a car wash, a service station, and a gas station to the northwest, Taco Bell to the southeast, self-storage and Thompson Building Materials to the north, and industrial buildings to the east and south. The nearest residential uses are approximately 750 square feet to the west of units K and L. And those are separated by the existing businesses, which is the car wash, the gas station, and the service station, as well as the railroad tracks and Lewis Road. There are also condominiums located approximately 425 feet to the north of units K and L, separated by Thompson Building Materials. This is the front elevation of the multi-tenant building. Units K and L are currently occupied by Adolfo Auto Care, which is the proposed location for the dog kennel. This is the floor plan for the proposed dog kennel. The area is approximately 2,800 square feet. This is the conceptual layout. It includes the intake areas towards the front, right here and right here. Storage areas, here and here. The break room, restrooms, and then the open but fenced-in area for the daycare area right here. This is a cage-free kennel, so the dogs are free to roam in the designated play area. There will be overnight staff member in that play area with the dogs to supervise, so no kenneling will be necessary. There are no exterior modifications proposed, as the use will be conducted entirely within the building. The property is zoned light manufacturing, or M1, in which the dog kennels are permitted, subject to the approval of a conditional use permit. The proposed dog kennel is compatible with the surrounding uses because there are no sensitive uses or receptors in the area that would be negatively affected by the proposed use. The operations will be conducted entirely within the building, and there will be no outdoor activities other than one dog to be walked at a time. In reviewing the application and site conditions, staff finds that the proposed dog kennel would meet the parking requirements. At the time of the original development approval, required parking for the multi-tenant building was 108 spaces. In 2010, the city completed a comprehensive update to the parking ordinance, which would reduce the parking requirement to 74 spaces. There are currently 109 spaces provided, and the number of the provided spaces exceeds the required parking for the current uses by 35 spaces. Staff is recommending that 3 special conditions of approval are added to the conditional use permit. First is that the use must be operated in such a way as to produce no objectionable odors or noise outside of its walls. Second is that only one dog may be walked outdoors at one time. Dog waste is to be picked up and placed in plastic bags and disposed of properly in trash bin at the project location. And the third is that the proposed kennel must comply with the requirements of the city's noise regulations applicable to industrial properties. If such standards are exceeded, or if the cries and barking of the animals kept in the premises result in recurring unreasonable disturbances of the adjacent uses, even if such noise standards are not exceeded, the director may require the facility to add special soundproofing to the existing walls or take such other measures to reduce the noise impact as directed by the Director of Community Development. These 3 conditions have been applied to other dog kennels previously approved in the city. The project was reviewed in accordance with CEQA and was determined to be categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA under Class 1 existing facilities. Staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions of approval. The actions of the Planning Commission is final unless an appeal is filed within 10 days of the date of their action. And this concludes staff presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any commissioner questions for Ascana?
I just wanted to confirm you haven't received any public comment from the notices, 600-foot notices?
We have not.
Yeah.
Any other? No.
Not at this time.
Mr. Thomas, you okay? Okay, so staff have any further comments? We'll go ahead and open the public testimony. If the applicant's here, if they come forward, please. And if you would state your name for the record, please.
Sure, thank you. Good evening. My name is Melissa Blackwell with Beach Dog Fun. We're a doggy daycare and small boutique and retail. This is basically our philosophy is that your dog has become a member of the family. No longer is this one to be shoved in a cage or put in the backyard on a chain, but one to be recognized with individual and specialized care. So we're a completely cage-free, kennel-free, and very engaged and socialized environment. We've been in business for just over 4 years. This is an opportunity for us to grow an already successful business and hopefully bring our services closer to even more of a residential part of Camarillo. And we appreciate the staff's help and all of your thank you for any questions or concerns that you had. We've been able to work through, and we appreciate your consideration and welcome any questions.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions for the
Where are
applicant?
you located currently that you're expanding from?
Yes, ma'am. We have a retail location in 4936 Verdugo Way. It's in the Mission Oaks Plaza Retail Shopping Center. We're currently sort of across the street from Camarillo High School off of Santa Rosa Road.
Okay.
How about you, Mr.?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you, maybe what your thoughts were in terms of the plan for dog walking and so forth, given that there's, not much park space around there.
Correct, absolutely. We, the great thing about us being cage-free and open and having so many, this opportunity for us to have more space than we currently have is to have more opportunity for training areas as well as several daycare areas. Some dogs are more hyperactive. They'll be in a sort of a high-energy daycare area. Some are a little bit more not as active or need a little bit more quiet time, so they have the opportunity to be in that sort of area. And then there'll also be training and socialization going on in other areas. We don't currently do dog walks externally from our facility in any capacity. It's very risky. It's actually a pretty it's a risky business. So they get enough stimulation for being in the doggy daycare. We're constantly having them move. We're engaging them in play and training methods of getting them to get up and move around and socialize with the other dogs. That even with 2 or 3 hours of continuous play, they get a lot of great exercise. We have several dogs that come, over a dozen that come every day or at least a couple times a week. And after 3 or 4 hours, they're dog tired. So we don't currently do walks, and we won't unless there's a very special condition. And if we did, it was only one walk at a time. You also have to make sure that they're in a safety harness, that that person is experienced in dog walking. But currently, we don't do that, and we don't plan on doing external dog walks.
Okay, so the condition was there not because that was what your plan was or intent was. It was in case
Sure, I'm
you
sure.
find it necessary.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we don't currently do dog walks outside.
So it's
of our-
all contained within the facility is basically how
Exactly.
you're going to run it.
Yep.
the
Everything will
operation.
be inside the confines of
Okay,
the business.
thanks.
Any questions?
Do you have?
Go ahead, Mr. Murphy, go ahead.
Okay. I missed whether you were moving from your Verdugo location over to this new location.
Yes, we'll have, depending on the delivery of the space, if it's approved, we will have both open for several months so that we can do sort of a smooth transition. This is an opportunity for us to grow. We're at the sort of end of our lease where we currently are. We do have an extension if we would need to extend there. We have an opportunity to, but we need more space. We're really growing leaps and bounds. And so we would be open at our current location and smoothly, hopefully, transitioning over to the larger space. So both will be open at the same time from a period of 3 to 6 months, depending on the delivery of the space and the build-out, how long that takes.
All right, that sounds good. Just curious, at the Verdugo location, how do the dogs do on 4th of July with the fireworks coming out?
They think the world's ending, a lot of them. Some of them, it doesn't bother them at all, and some, yeah, what's great is that the way that our building is, even though the fireworks were really close to where we were, we didn't hear it as much as you would think, and we sort of do a slumber party type of, we close a little early that day, and we settle everyone real way down, and we, make sure everybody's comfy, and we have the dog beds out, and a couple of our staff members are there to comfort, and so some of them, it's not like it didn't even affect them at all, and some think, yeah, the world is coming to an end.
Right.
Good news is it only happens for an hour or so, and then it's business as usual. So.
Well, the Adolfo location will be further away, and
Yes,
that noise
it'll
will be
be a
less
lot
a factor.
It'll get the train.
Yeah.
How about you, Mr. Talmadge?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. You indicated that you're going to have overnight stays. How does that work? Does a person bring their dog and the dog's bed, and then you take care of it, or?
Yes, absolutely. So we are a cage-free environment, so they're there to play, hopefully all day. Even if they're dropped off sort of close to closing time, we'll have the opportunity to exercise that dog and have a little bit of uptime before we move into this sort of sleepy area. So that part is basically what we just sort of make it a doggy living room where we set out their beds. We ask people to bring something from home that smells like bedtime. So a bed that they actually use, or sometimes people will bring even a shirt that they've slept in, something that smells of home and of bedtime. And we have futons and, all kinds of crazy dog beds. We have beds that are set up high, some that are low, sometimes they go under things, and they sort of find where they want to settle. Usually by 8 o'clock, they're all knocked out, and you sort of just put their stuff, from home by them, and it's a really nice and easy, as long as someone's there, they really nicely go to bed and sleep until about 6 o'clock in the morning, and then it's up and running again. But somebody, as long as someone is there and there to take care of it, if someone's nervous or just to be there, and they trust and they love, then it's a smooth deal.
Well, you indicated that there's going to be a staff person there overnight when you have that.
Yeah, we have it's actually helpful for us. It's the time for them to do laundry, get the meal preps for the next day, take care of really the laundry is is sort of a thing to make sure that anyone that's going home the next day, their stuff is ready and accounted for. And so there'll be several other things that person is responsible for during that time, but their primary responsibility is just to be there with the dogs and to make sure everybody is copacetic.
How do you deal with special dietary needs and application of medications as may be required?
Absolutely. We have a I proposed the Brigham, we have a fridge, freezer for anyone that needs, fresh food or raw food, refrigerator or frozen. A microwave can usually take care of anything that needs to be heated up. We don't currently charge for any sort of thing like that. We feed them individually, one-on-one. Even if it's a brother, sister, sister, brother combo, you still have to feed them one-on-one. So we usually start about 4 o'clock with dinners. And then medication, we'll do anything as far as pills and injections a supervisor can do. There are certain things that you would need a vet supervision to do, or you would need to go to see a vet to get the training on. But diabetic shots we currently administer to the back of the neck. Pills are no problem at all. We're very well. And all of our staff is trained in CPR and first aid. We actually go to a outside class, and they're certified. And we have books on first aid, and we have first aid kits all throughout the daycare in case there is any medical need at all.
And this is dogs only. It's not other animals.
Just dogs, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
What do you do when a fight breaks out?
We have several techniques, actually. The great part of it is that if you have well-trained staff and if they're present and working, they can sort of head it off most of the time. The other great thing about it is that we've had a really successful 4 years in building a pack, and it's really important for that. If all of your dogs know each other and come to daycare a lot and play, they've already formed sort of a pack, and they know the pack leaders, the trainers that are there, and the staff that is there. And so we're sort of able to head it off. You can almost feel it. You can definitely see it, and you can almost feel it coming. So we have sort of noise correctors. We have sort of ultrasonic bark corrector wands that we use. We use lights, our voice, your physical self. We also use leashes. We don't have cages or crates, but there's things that you can do to just put the leash on the dog. It's amazing to just redirect them in a different direction. It works most of the time. A dog fight, if you can head it off very quickly, it only takes a half a second to really just redirect people's, their energy. And so your staff, and that's why we have to have someone there all the time. They have to be present and ready to break up anything. But it's really interesting when they come in and they're not with their parent. They act a lot different than they would if they're with you. When they're with you, they have a job to do, and usually that's to protect, mommy or daddy. And when they're in a pack situation, they just get to be a dog. And a lot of time, it's a lot easier to acclimate them, especially if you have a successful pack and staff members that are successful pack leaders to basically help that dog sort of let its guard down. And immediately the energy is amazing. So,
Thank you for your answers and your enthusiasm.
Well, thank you.
Is there an ideal number or maximum capacity?
Yeah, mostly deals with staff. I mean, we're hoping to have 4 staff members on in the daycare areas at maximum. So you want to have about, 12-to-1 ratio is really, you could do more, but that's really where we're comfortable. So that's sort of our capacity. But every staff member that you add, then you can sort of successfully add 12 dogs or so. Now, at night, overnight, you could get much bigger than that because they're tired.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, Beverly?
Yeah, I still have one more question, and that is, this being automotive use right now.
Yes.
I've spent a lot of time there. The fumes from the smells and everything that's built up all of these years, is that going to be a hindrance to the animals? Or are you going to be able to mitigate that and get rid of all of those in some way?
It is it was definitely a concern working with MF Daly and the planning. Yes, it's been a service center for 20 years, and so, yeah, there's antifreeze and oil, and so we have special plans to go in and strip all of that. The floor actually even has to be sanded down several inches and then sealed and epoxied. The walls will be waterproofed, sort of the same material you'd use in a bathroom, so that all of the walls and the floors cannot be penetrated by waste and urine and water. But before all of that happens, we will have to strip the walls, the floors, and really, really mitigate any of those dangerous chemicals. The great thing about that property is the big garage doors, though. The amount of fresh air that you can get in there is really great. One of the things that if you've ever visited our business, and hopefully you do, is that everyone comments we work really, really hard and to make sure that it doesn't feel or smell like a traditional kennel, that you come in and it feels much fresher, and we're very open book. So you can come in and you literally can see your dog. We even have a day camera where someone on their phone or their tablet can go on and see their dog playing throughout the day. So we're 100% open book for our customers. And we actually infuse lavender and other silly, it actually works though. It's amazing. It's aromatherapeutic to them. So we diffuse lavender throughout the daycare all day. And when you walk into our store, it smells of lavender and beachy scents, because that's sort of it helps to sort of sensationalize the pack. But the amount of fresh air that we're able to get in just naturally through those big doors, we're really excited about. It's nice. And it's nice for the dogs. They get a sense of being outside, but it's safe.
I just wasn't sure you could totally get rid of all the all the built up.
You can. There's special things to do. And then we use a cleaning system through Cintas currently, which we'll continue to use, and it's hospital grade, which is much more than a lot of traditional kennels just use bleaches and things like that, which can be harmful to your pet. So we've done a lot of research, and we use specialized cleaners, disinfectants that are diluted down to not be harmful, but they're really effective. They're expensive, but they're very effective.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll close the public testimony, and any further commission discussion or call for resolution, whatever is the preference.
I have one quick question of staff. On this discussion we were just hearing, was there any environmental matters that were addressed in that regard, as far as the pet exposure to what was previously an auto shop sort of thing, and whatever was handled in the way of materials previously?
No, there was not.
Okay. That was all I have.
Any other question? Okay, then call for resolution.
Resolution number PC 2019-10, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Camarillo approving a conditional use permit requested by Teresa Blackwell to authorize a dog kennel within an existing 2,776 square foot space of a multi-tenant industrial building within the city's light industrial zone located at 4035 Adolph Road, units K and L, further described as CUP-396.
I move that we waive further reading and adopt the resolution as stated.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Murphy and seconded by Mr. Espinosa. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Okay, we move on to item number 8, the director's report.
No report this evening.
Do you know if we're going to have a meeting the first week of August? Do you know that yet or not?
Our next meeting is August 20th.
20th, okay.
Yeah, we had to change the meetings a little bit, so we had that 10 days so the city council could review it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's great, because I want to be on vacation if we had one the first week, so. Okay, any commissioner comments?
Nope.
Then we're adjourned.